Whoa, Ben Shapiro sees Barbie and gets upset that he couldn't play Alan. Yeah, all right, so let's just get this started. You know, I finally saw the Barbie movie today. All right, I was supposed to see it on Tuesday, but then I got there and it was sold out. So this time on Tuesday, my wife and I bought tickets for the movie today, and then we say it's a good thing we did because it was pretty much sold out too. A lot of hype around this movie. And tomorrow I'm going to see Haunted Mansion. Hopefully that one's good too. But anyway, I saw Barbie and I liked it. It was actually really good. It was a good movie. That's pretty much it. I will say there are some parts that I wasn't a huge fan of. Like, it was a little preachy. It was a little sensationalized in some moments. But also it set the stage that it was going to be really sensationalized. Overall, it was very funny, though. Obviously, all the Kens were the best parts of the movie. I just liked it. I would recommend watching it. It was funny. You know, what about the patriarchy parts? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was a little preachy. It's not necessarily wrong, but it's sensationalized. That's kind of the point, right? You know, we do live in a society that tends to be more male-dominated. That is true, right? You know, it's just the way that some people talk about it is cringe. Alan was better. That's true. But it was still good overall, you know? And I liked that they threw in the part where, like, the Kens felt oppressed in a way that would be similar to the way women feel in our society. So it made it, you know, it gives you something to be resonated with. It doesn't say that a female-dominated society is better. It just is a critique on a male-dominated society, and the kind of undertone that I got was that, like, you know, it'd be good if everybody kind of worked together, right? So that's what I got out of that. The most annoying character was the kid, which apparently was supposed to represent one of the Bratz dolls. Because she lays on an annoying line about how capitalism and fascism and blah, 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 blah. You know, shut up, kid. You know what I mean? But by the end of the movie, she seems to like Barbie. They don't put it in your face, but that's what it's part of it. There was a lot of inclusion. There was a trans woman in it. There were a lot of different people of color. There were fat women. But it didn't throw it in your face and tell you that, like, oh, you know what I mean? It was just there. They didn't, like, point at it and say, look at this. Like, we're woke. There was no race baiting. You know what I mean? Like some movies are race baity, right? There was one moment where the kid said, like, oh, you're a white savior, Barbie. And then they kind of just moved past it. Like, nobody acknowledged her, which to me communicated, like, you know, like, shut up. Yeah, I liked it. It was cool. I guess that's all I could really say. So I guess, you know.
Well, folks, I just got back.
Ben, relax. We're not here for you yet. Okay? We're not here for you. I forgot to put the alerts on. Thank you so much for the gifted sub, though. But yeah, let's watch it. Let's just get it going. Okay?
From the theaters, seeing Barbie
Whoa.
and Oppenheimer. I'm about to review both of them. I'm going to tell you which one of these is the best blockbuster of 2023. And
it's Oppenheimer 2?
Which one is maybe the worst.
I bet he loved our movie, right, Ken?
For those of
Bro, he's really got, like, he added more ambient sounds into this.
you who can't wait that long, I'm going to give my review of the Barbie movie in the most Oppenheimer fashion.
What the Run.
It's bad for the environment, Ben. Come on.
So the things I do for my audience, my producers dragged me to go see Barbie movie. Barbie, the movie.
Yeah, dragged you. Okay. I'm sure they dragged you, Ben. I'm sure. The movie, by the way, was funny. That was one thing, too. It was like a little social justice preachy. But in my opinion, there's a lot of movies that like get like really preachy and social justice warrior and everything. And then the movies just suck. At least this movie was funny. I was laughing a lot. The Kens were the best. I mean, they were all the best, you know.
And
there's a lot of characters. Like there was a lot of characters that I recognized from other shows, like Sex Education. There was like the gay guy from that. You know, the woman from there was this girl from a movie that was about like growing up as a fat teenager. I forgot what that movie was. Or a show was. My wife liked that one a lot, and I watched it too, and it was actually pretty good. You know, a while ago. So it had a good cast.
I have thoughts. This video is sponsored by ExpressVPN.
Oh,
Let me begin
God.
with my generalized assessment of the movie.
Yeah.
This movie is not just a piece of shit. This movie is a flaming piece of dog shit piled atop an entire dumpster on fire, piled atop a landfill filled with dog shit. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen on every possible level.
There's no way. There's no way he actually thought that. There's no way. It's one. Really? It was funny. It was well written. I liked it a lot. Will Ferrell was in it, dude. Are you kidding me? It was incredible.
It's a horrific movie. The only thing that can be said for this film is production design. The production design is really nice. The costumes are really nice. Also, it's really hard to screw that up. It's really hard to screw that up because you literally have this to model after.
Oh yeah, there was really nice. The CGI looked good, and you couldn't really tell when it was CGI. But then also everything that wasn't CGI also was like mechanically good as well. Like I liked that.
All you have to do is this, but big. Okay, it's really not tough. But put aside all of the beautiful costumes, which is there for the ladies, and all of the production design and the Barbie universe and all of that. Every joke that happens in this film happens basically within the first 45 seconds of the film. So, for example, Barbie turns on the water and there's no water. Ooh, because, you know, like in Barbie house, there's no actual water. Do you get it? And then she...
What? The movie is full of jokes. What are you talking about? Like, the best joke in the entire movie was when the Barbies manipulate the Kens to fight each other because the Kens take over Barbie. You have to watch the movie because it's insane now that I'm explaining it. And the men start fighting in this insane, bizarre D-Day scene where they're rolling up on the beaches in like weird boats and fighting each other with lacrosse sticks because as a boy, everything is a sword. Every stick is a sword. And they're punching each other with the stick or hitting each other with the sticks and fighting and pretending to get stabbed and go down. The whole movie is like one, I would say, pretty funny run-on joke. The jokes are throughout the whole movie. What are you talking about? Now, if you didn't find them funny, that's fine. But the whole movie is like loaded with jokes. What do you mean?
Drinks, but there's no actual liquid in the actual cup. Oh my God! Because she's a Barbie doll. Oh, I get it. Okay, that's all the jokes. There are no more jokes for the rest of the film.
What?
The movie's a show. Okay, so conceptually,
they literally play on that drinking joke because later on they have her drink tea and she'd have her drink water and she throws it into her face and it was like just so stupid. Not all the humor was clever, but I also like dumb humor. And it was full of that. The movie didn't take itself too seriously. It was silly. What are you talking about?
The movie is a show. I want to ask this. Who's the intended audience for the film? Who's the...
Girls, obviously. Actually, watching the movie, the intended audience for this was probably women. Like, women. Not really girls, to be honest with you. I think that, like, it definitely didn't resonate as much with me as a man. Because I asked my wife, I said, did this resonate with you? And she said, yeah. I said, did the themes of the patriarchy resonate with you? And she said, yeah, but it's stupid. In the same vein. She's like, yeah, because it's true, but also, like, it's stupid. Like, who cares? Right? Like, that was kind of her thing. But it resonated with women a lot, right? Because this is a movie about fucking Barbie. Literally a movie about Barbie. All right? There was also a funny part where the guys start talking about how they're going to have a beach off and they're going to beach each other off. I found it funny. It was just stupid humor. I don't give a fuck. I was dying laughing at it. I wasn't dying laughing, but I was like, I had a good giggle. I had a good, I had a lot of those. And that's more than a laugh sometimes, What the fuck is Ben talking about? It sounds like he just wants to hate the movie as much as possible. That's what it sounds like to me. So, which is just silly, Ben. You can like the movie without loving the message.
Intended audience for this film. So I'll tell you who the intended audience for this film is, and I can tell two ways. One, the previews on the film, and two, the people in the audience. So the intended.
I could figure it out because I watched it. And it was considering it centralized around a mom. It's about one of the things I loved about the movie was that the daughter hated Barbie and she thought it was fascist capitalist. It had a bad representation of women, blah, 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 which might be partially true. But the movie also shows you that if Barbie came out, was the first more adult doll where everything else was a baby doll telling women that they could really, all the playthings were just little girls playing with babies to learn how to be a mom in some capacity. And then they had like a new representation that women could be more than just mothers. For the time, it was pretty cool. Right? I like that they set the tone of like empathy and like they presented some woke narratives, but at the same time almost dismissing them in other capacities. To me, it was like almost an empathetic take on the older people's perspectives on the world. Maybe I'm drawing too much out of it, but it wasn't this like woke bomb, It was a lot more than that.
The audience for this film is moms and their 8-year-old daughters.
Yeah.
That's the intended audience for the film.
Sure.
I know because the previews for the film
it's a
were
fucking
all
Barbie
kids
movie,
movies.
Ben.
I'm talking like G or PG rated kids films. We're talking like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Trolls 4 or whatever it is.
Okay.
Those were all the previews, right? All the previews.
By the way, I don't like the new style of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but guess who's going to be Master Splinter? Jackie Chan. Okay, I'm going to see it. I mean, that's all it took for me is really Jackie Chan. Also, I think Ice Cube. Is it Ice Cube or Ice-T? I don't know. I'm going to say it's Ice Cube. Don't call me racist. Is going to be a character in that movie. Looks good, too. Gotta say. Kind of vibing on it.
are actually directed at what the audience is supposed to be for this film. And if you look in the audience, it's a bunch of moms, youngish moms, middle-aged moms, with their like 6, 7, 8-year-old girls.
Okay.
That's the entire crew. This movie is not made for any of those people. In fact, this movie is made for no one.
What? What are you talking about?
This movie is going to make a bunch of money week one because the marketing effort has been extraordinary. I mean, whoever's the marketing team over at Warner Brothers is doing an amazing job. Week one, this thing is going to clean up at the domestic box office. My prediction is going to just absolutely fall off a cliff after that. The repeat business on this movie is going to be non-existent.
Whoa. It's thundering out. Why? Okay. He really hates this movie.
Because it was written by two people who are so smug and self-satisfied, and Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, that they have no audience. I mean, like, who thought it's a great idea? Let's bring on the people who wrote Lady Bird and Marriage Story.
Here's what I know. What are you? Do you have shit in your mouth? Marriage Story was great. What the fuck are you talking about? Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. Marriage Story was fantastic. I'm a fucking man. Listen, what the fuck are you talking about, Ben? There's no way. There's no way that this... Ben. What are you talking about, brother? What are you talking about? You gotta have eggs in your fucking brain. What the hell's happening here? What? I don't understand. I agree that it wasn't necessarily marketed to men, but there's still characters that for men to feel represented. I love the part where Ken found out that he was a man and he started running around town reading books about the patriarchy and like loved figuring out how awesome cars were. It was just so fucking awesome and stupid. I fucking loved it. It was incredible. He was just like, yeah, men are the best. And I was like, yeah, of course. I agree. The movie even criticized how much the Ken dolls like were obsessed with the Barbie dolls, how they had no personality of their own. Like there was so much to the movie. It's so hard to explain because there's so much.
To make a movie about a plastic doll that is generally played with by 5 to 9-year-old young girls.
Okay.
So the basic idea of the film, they really have no basic idea of the film. They don't know whether they hate Barbie or that we're supposed to kind of like Barbie. It seems they kind of despise Barbie as a fascist emblem, as we'll get to. The basic sort of premise of the film, politically speaking, is that men and women are on two sides of a divide and they hate each other. And literally the only way you can have a happy world is if the women ignore the men and the men ignore the women.
No. What are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about, Ben? That's not communicated at all.
That seems to be the final outcome of this film. I was trying to separate this into problems with plot.
No, it wasn't. The final outcome of the film is that Barbie, and this is a spoiler, ends up leaving and becoming like a real girl. But the Barbie town that stays behind just stays female dominated. And then the men are like, can we have power too? Can we have one seat on Congress? And they're like, no, but you can have like a lesser court seat. And they are giddy over that. And the commentary there is supposed to be like Barbie one day will be as progressive as the real world where women still take second fiddle. Now you can say that you don't like that narrative and that's fine. But the movie's not about non-integration. In fact, again, there was a big part of it was about how the Kens felt like their entire existence centralized around the Barbies, and like they felt like their entire being was oppressed in the society, and like they didn't like that society. What the fuck are you talking about? The movie, if anything, is really more about how people need to work together, both men and women. Like, there's no way you got this out of the movie.
And problems with character, and problems with the politics of the film, but they're all intertwined because the thing is just a mess. It doesn't make any sense.
Not really, no.
Plot-wise, it makes no sense. Character-wise, it makes no sense. So let's just go through it from the beginning. Okay, there's going to be lots of spoilers, but believe...
Is Ben going to complain about the one trans woman that's in the movie? He probably couldn't even tell she was trans, to be honest with you, because she was very passable. I could. I have a litmus test. I got real hard. No, I'm just kidding. I wonder though.
Me, I'm about to save you so much time because this movie is 2 hours. It feels like it is longer than the Wagnerian ring cycle.
No, it's good.
It does not end.
It's a good
Every
movie.
scene is at least 2 minutes too long. Every single scene, every beat is 2 minutes too long. It is a bad film. Put aside the politics. Like really, I was sitting there with a bunch of my producers. I'm a little bit more political than my producers. My producers were watching this, putting the politics aside. It is a bad movie. So why is it getting 91% on Rotten Tomatoes? Because
it was a good movie.
that it works for the reviewers is if you have the right politics, and those politics are sufficiently slyly inserted, then it will get a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, even if the thing is just Drek. Okay. And I mean, boy, is this Drek. This is a Death Star.
Yeah, they didn't touch on like anything else. They stayed in the lane of just having a social conversation about men and women dynamics. And you could say that they missed a mark, and that's fine. I disagree. I think, again, it was a little preachy and it was a little sensationalized. Like when they first get to the Barbie town or the regular town, everybody starts like ogling her and treating her like an object, and like one person slaps her ass and everything. But like that was a bit sensationalized. I'm not saying that women don't face a particular amount of violence or anything, but you could say that, which I would. But overall, like it wasn't. It stayed in its lane. It was like, let's talk about dynamics between men and women. We're not going to talk about trans people. They had a trans person. We're not going to talk about fat people. We had a fat person. We're not going to talk about black people, but we had black people in the movie. There was plenty of diverse roles that they don't put it in your face and tell you like, you know, oh my God, we're so woke now. It stays. It does a good job of just sticking to one level of communication.
Sized piece of dreck. It is like, that's no moon. That's a dreck station.
What?
That is that this movie. Okay, so let's jump into it. I have like pages and pages of notes on this horrific piece of.
Did you actually watch the movie, or did you just write
notes? So let's
notes?
start right at the beginning. So it's, from the beginning, you know what this movie is going to be, and it's going to be a very cynical take on what Barbie is, which is so weird. I don't know why Mattel would turn over its IP to filmmakers who clearly hate the IP. It's as though you were going to make Toy Story, except that toys are all evil. They're all bad, and you're supposed to hate them, and you should burn them.
Okay.
Because that's kind of the message.
Don't you not like Disney though? Like, don't you cry about how Disney is just like pandering? Like, isn't the fundamental there is that there are things that you can criticize? Thank you so much for the 5 gifted sub, by the way. I don't know why it's not announcing it. My opinion, but like, don't you complain? Like, you complain about Disney that makes Toy Story, and you have things to criticize about it, and that's fine. So like now Mattel's saying, hey, go for it, criticize us as well. Okay, I mean it's probably not virtuous. They probably feel like they can get an angle out of it, but okay.
The film is that the Barbies are bad for the world. Okay, so it begins by trying to uphold the original vision of Barbie. What was the original magical vision of Barbie? We have Helen Mirren here to tell us in the form of a narrator, apparently played by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's speaking from heaven. And we get a 2001: A Space Odyssey flashback. Which again, who's the audience for this? Right, the reference points in this film, it references variously Marcel Proust.
I was telling you before that was like the beginning was like a weird thing about. It was a good thing about you know how people only had young girls only had little girl dolls to play with, like baby dolls to play with. They didn't have like actual other things to play with, and so like Barbie offered a new thing to play with.
It references Robert Evans and the cinematography of The Godfather. It references 2001: A Space Odyssey. This is a movie made for moms and their 7-year-old girls.
Okay.
Well, folks, wasting 2 hours of my precious time, 2 hours I will never get back. 2 hours where on my deathbed I will wish that I had not spent that time with you. Makes me viscerally angry. But I'm going to talk to you about something that makes me much happier.
It's an ad. Okay, cool. Hey, look, go Cognito. Oh, yeah. Ads.
And then,
okay.
That back in the day, girls would only play with dolls that look like babies. And then she says that this could be fun, at least for a while anyway. Ask your mother, because your mother actually hates you and doesn't like being a mom, you see. So if you ask your mother...
No, I think it's just making a joke about how it's hard to be a mother, and also how it's fun to play with baby dolls, but then you grow out of that and want to play with other things, Ben. So...
Mom, she wants to play at not being a mom sometimes. Okay, so the basic premise is Barbie is supposed to be the independent woman who liberates all womanhood, but she fails. And she fails for 2 reasons. 1, she's actually a tool of the patriarchal capitalist system. And 2, the real world has rejected the message of Barbie.
There's probably a level of truth to that.
Which is that women should run everything. Okay, so this is all not implicit. This is explicitly said. At the beginning, the monologue, you have Helen Mirren saying, because Barbie can be anything, women can be anything. At least that's what the Barbies think. See, in the real world, women can't be anything. And that's one of the messages of the film.
Yeah, that's true, right? Like, you know, they can't be good at sports. But listen, it's not that women can't do mostly everything. It's that there are some social standards set that don't allow women to necessarily do everything. I remember when Hillary Clinton, right? Hillary Clinton. I remember I was working like an actual job, and I talked to some of the guys about it. And one of the older guys said this. He said, "You know, I don't mind Hillary Clinton, but if we've elected a woman, the rest of the world would look at us like we're a joke." And I don't know. I don't care if I don't care what the rest of the world thinks, because we're the fucking America and we're number one and we're best, and you can suck my balls. But a lot of people feel that way, and there's a level of probably truth to that. And so I was like, interesting. And that's one of the reasons why women won't be president for at least a long time, because there is a perception of like, you know, we'll be perceived as weak as a country, even if we wouldn't be weak. And, you know, there are some things women can be excluded from, you know, when they grow up, you know, women, again, with the Barbie dolls or the other dolls, that non-Barbie dolls, they get pushed towards doing roles of like caretaking, not necessarily pushed to do whatever they want, which is changing every day, of course. And it's going to continue to change. But like historically, there's social boundaries and social things that still constrain women in some capacity. Yeah, I like that they use Bill Clinton as a male figure in the movie too. I agree with that. My wife said in chat, I agree with that. Bill Clinton, okay, I get it. He got a blowjob. You know what I mean? But if your wife was Hillary, you know what I mean? I'm sorry, Hillary. It was funny.
In the real world,
you have to see it.
Run pretty much everything.
For the
which
most,
is weird.
kind
Who
of.
greenlit this piece of shit? I mean, Greta Gerwig is a lady. She's making a good living off of this. Margot Robbie is playing the lead.
She was an excellent lead. But yeah, no, like I said, the movie was a little sensationalized. But
the entire cast, aside from basically Ryan Gosling, is women. So
and like the other 500 different Kens, of course, and all the CEOs in the company.
It seems like women are
with Mattel.
Doing okay. But again, put aside the meta logic of it. I'm going to go through like a lot of beats here. So it starts off with the idea that mommy dolls are bad and insufficient. But then they criticize Mattel for...
No, that's not what it's about. No, it's about how it's not enough diversity. That's not what you get out of that at all. And he doesn't mean mommy dolls. He means baby dolls. It wasn't about how baby dolls were bad. It was about how that was the only thing that women were offered. And it would be nice if there was more diversity for young girls instead of having to like engage with those dolls. It wasn't about how they're bad. What are you talking about? That's not even true. You're making things up.
For discontinuing a mommy doll named Midge. Right? Midge is the pregnant doll and it was discontinued. They're like, that's bad.
Oh.
But hold on, you just said that dolls about motherhood are bad. But
no, they were making a joke how it didn't sell well because they thought it was weird that there was a mommy Barbie doll. This isn't the message at all. What are you talking about? What the fuck? You're making shit up. It was just about how weird it was and about how it didn't sell well. What are you talking about? But okay.
Then this one, don't look for any sort of logical coherence.
Oh, fuck.
There's a Citizens United reference. They say all of the members of the Barbie Supreme Court are women.
Okay.
And then they are speaking out about Citizens United. The corporations are not people. It's literally a Citizens United reference. Who is the audience for this? Who is the 7-year-old girl who's like, yes, I do have a very informed perspective on the Citizens United decision.
What are you talking about? It was just making a comment. I mean, maybe I'm missing something, but it was just making a commentary about how it's all women in the same way about our society is all men. Again, the Barbie society in the beginning is supposed to be reflective of our current society, just in the opposite direction.
And then they say that logic and feeling at the same time, it doesn't diminish us. It proves that we are more than, right? It's all propagandistic.
Sure.
And
yes, there was a moment where one of them was talking about how they had a mixture of logic and emotion and made them a better person, and that's true. But okay.
Then it sets up the dichotomy. The dichotomy is that men and women are in complete and utter contradistinction in terms of their roles. So women only exist if they are completely free of men, and men only exist if they are completely free of women. And the problem for Ken, the problem is set up for Ken, is that Ken is dependent on Barbie. Right? Because Ken is kind of secondary. And we also set up at the very beginning that Barbie doesn't like Ken. She finds Ken annoying. She finds Ken ridiculous.
Barbie likes Ken. Barbie isn't attracted to Ken and doesn't want to be with Ken. And Ken does want to be with Barbie. She doesn't dislike them. At one point, she even talks about how they're really good friends. Ken gets friend zoned. What are you talking? How did you get? There's no way that you actually got these messages out of the movie. There's just no way.
Which again is sort of against the concept of Ken and Barbie. But the basic idea is that Barbie is an independent woman and Ken is completely superfluous. We then go to...
Sure. I guess superfluous means that he's dependent onto her. Yes, and that's criticized in the movie as a bad thing. Like, a huge part of the movie is about how Ken needs to move on and find himself and not just be Barbie's boyfriend. That's a huge part of the movie.
The beach, and there's a scene on the beach where the Kens are supposed to be the lifeguards and the ladies are playing on the beach, and we get a series of gay masturbation jokes. Again, there's an audience for children.
You said that the jokes ended, and it was funny.
They're talking about beaching each other off.
Yep.
Right?
It was funny. It was dumb, lowbrow humor. It was funny.
A line where Ken says to another one of the Kens, I'm going to beat you off. Get it? Get it? You get it? Because it's like beat you off, but beach you off. And then they repeat.
Yeah, because they're at the beach, so it was like, I'm going to outbeat you. Like, I'm going to beach. And it wasn't really for children, by the way. This is like a virtue signal to try to recommend, like, here. Just want to be very clear about the rating of the Barbie movie. I believe is PG-13. Yes, PG-13. So there are suggestive references. It is a PG-13 audience. He's trying to make it seem like there's almost some weird, like, and it's not really inappropriate. It was fine. Yeah, I don't think my wife says I don't think he watched this. I think he sent somebody to watch it and tell me what you think. Yeah, probably. I think he watched it looking for it to be bad, and he found it. But that's how, in the beginning, he's like, there was no jokes after this long, and then all of a sudden he's on another joke. So.
That no less than 4 or 5 times in the span of 45 seconds.
If I wasn't severely injured, I would beat you off right now, Ken.
I'll beat you off with you any day, Ken.
Anyone who wants to beat him off has to beat me off first.
I will beat both of you off at the same time.
Beat both of us off?
Nobody's gonna beat anyone off.
Okay.
Bazinga.
Because it's just such a great gay masturbation joke.
It was funny. What kind of humor do you laugh at, Ben? Like, what's the humor that hits you? Like, because it doesn't have to be, jokes don't have to be the most fucking gut-breaking, hilarious things in the entire world. Sometimes they could just be stupid. They don't have to be that great. Jokes can just be dumb humor. And that's the beauty of it. Not every joke has to have this, like you know, super intense underlying, like, intelligent theme. It was just, it was basically some dumb humor.
You got to go for it. I mean, What else will the 7-year-old girls in the audience think if you don't go for the gay masturbation joke on the beach? Clearly.
Okay.
We get black female President Barbie because this is, of course, the greatest of all possible worlds. So Kamala Harris, the Barbie version, is the president of the United States.
This is the part that gets me, is that he's like, the president does happen to be black. You want to know how many times they reference that they make a big deal out of it? 0. They don't talk about it at all. It's just a thing. That's what I want. That's what I want in a movie. I don't want it to be in my face. Just make the character black and shut the fuck up about it. That's my desire when I see the movies. I don't want you to virtue signal about like how, oh, we're so fucking progressive. We have a black president. Nope, they just make him black, her black, and that's it. We're done. That's what I want. That's it. They didn't have a fucking discussion about systemic racism. They weren't annoying, but they just made her black and they moved on. That's it. That's the representation I want to see. You know what I mean? Like I'm cool with social narratives. You know what I mean? Systemic oppression that exists, but I don't need to hear it every fucking time I go to the goddamn movies. It doesn't need to be the central theme. I appreciated that.
And then we get the break, right? Then we get the actual plot point. Plot point number 1.
Okay.
Barbie has irrepressible thoughts of death. So again, at this point, you might be thinking to yourself, "Wait a second, isn't this a kids' movie? Isn't this supposed to be made for 7-year-old girls?"
No, because it's
Nope.
not. It's literally a PG-13 movie. And it's mostly for women like my wife's age. Like women that are growing up, women who grew up with Barbie that are moms now. That's the central character of the story, is not a little girl. Part of the movie is about how Barbie like has these existential thoughts, blah blah blah. She has to go to the real world to solve the problem. She has to go find her like owner or whatever. And you think it's this girl that's like teenage girl. They reference her as a tween. No, it turns out it's the mom. It's literally not for children. Or it's not for 7-year-olds. It's for like teenagers and up. It's like the undertone is for us is supposed to be that it's inappropriate for kids, and that like it's gross, and like there's a level of inappropriate nature that from Ben's trying to like communicate.
Existential angst over mortality.
Yes.
That's what this film is about.
Yes,
Now,
and the reason that she has it is because her owner is starting to have that existential angst about mortality, and it's like somehow there's a bleeding through. And I'm not going to sit here and say that the storyline, like the overall plot, is like amazing and incredible. It's sufficient. It exists for what the movie intends to do, which is move forward with like silly, funny humor. And then it has a decent ending. Most comedies, I think, end like shit. The best comedies always kind of have shitty endings because they're like, oh, what if we had this situation where a guy had to go back to school at like 18 or 30 years old in order to get his dad's inheritance and be rich. And the movie is about the scenario, not necessarily the ending to the scenario, right? Shout out to Adam Sandler movie. Right, so the ending is not necessarily great. It's not terrible, but it's not necessarily great because it's not. But this one had a decent ending. I'm not going to spoil it for you if I don't have to. But
again, interlaced through all of this is just more and more and more politics. Right, one of the Barbies is a trans Barbie.
Yes,
and this is treated totally normally, as though this is a female Barbie.
Ben, who shut the fuck up? You wouldn't. I'm surprised he knew. They made. Check this out. They made a Barbie a trans woman. Do you want to know how many times the word trans woman was said? 0 times. Not a single time were you ever made to go like, oh, that's a trans woman. They didn't reference it. They just put her in the role and they moved on. I like that. That's what I want. I don't want to hear about how great you are because you added a trans actress. Just put the person in there and shut the fuck. Oh, something went wrong with my game. Interesting. Just shut the hell up. You know what I mean? I thought 5 minutes ago. Well, suck it up, bro. You're gonna have to suck a balls. That's all I have to say. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. And I appreciated that.
With a voice, again, deeper than my own. So Barbie starts to have these irrepressible thoughts of death. And this comes along with physical symptoms. Like, for example, her feet flatten out. Again, this is one of the few cute jokes in the movie, is that Barbie walks around, and just like a normal Barbie doll, when you take off the shoes, the feet are shaped like the shoe, like the high heel.
Yes.
But now she's turning into like a real world person, and so her feet collapse, right? And so she goes to see Weird Barbie. So Weird Barbie is a Barbie that has been played with too hard and has all the knowledge, not only about Barbie land, but also about the real world. And apparently, there's a connection between people.
She has some of the knowledge, sure.
Playing with the Barbies and the Barbies. So people playing with Barbies are sad, then the Barbies also get sad. Weird that this has only happened to Barbie because it turns out that lots of people are sad and have played with Barbies for a very long time. But that's the plot point. Fine. And again, the concept of like a Barbie that was played with too hard is very funny because everybody has seen that before. And they somehow blow this. Somehow they make this into a not funny thing. So Weird Barbie is ugly, and she has bad makeup and all the rest of it. And she informs Barbie she has to go to the real world, and she has to find the person who is playing with her, and she has to make that person feel better because that will heal the problem that she's having in Barbie land. Okay, so we have our plot point, right? We have the thing that's going to launch us off into the rest of the movie.
Okay.
And then it's just a complete mess from here on in. At least to this point, it's kind of dumb but coherent. From here on in, it makes no sense.
How did they ruin the joke? It was kind of funny. I don't know what. Okay.
At all. Again, Kate McKinnon sets up the dichotomy that pretty much the makers of the film hate Barbie by suggesting that you can live in Fantasyland with Barbie and you can take the Barbie shoe, or you can take Birkenstocks, right? You can become like a Portland lesbian and you can learn about reality.
Okay.
That's going to be the choice that you have to make.
Really not
but
that
not
deep.
before she makes a joke about Ken and wanting to see the nude blob he is packing under those pants.
It was pretty funny. Oh, yeah.
That's great.
It's funny that he keeps outlining all the jokes they made, but then says that there's only jokes in the first 45 seconds. I think that's funny.
He said that?
Perfect for 8-year-old girls, ladies.
Not
be warned.
it's not
Ken and
for
Barbie head off to the
8-year-olds.
real world to try to find the person who is playing with Barbie.
And by the way, the cut scenes and how to get to the other world, they were fun. They were fun. They looked really good. The set pieces look great.
And immediately upon arriving in the real world, Barbie is hit with an overwhelming tsunami of sexism. Like right away, boom. She walks in and a bunch of men just leer at her and say, "Give us a smile, blondie," which is something that no one under the age of 70 has said to a woman.
And I agree with this. Like I said, this is the sensationalized part. Like there is objectification of women, right? But like it was very in your face, and it was annoying because it was very like preaching in your face. But at the same time, the movie sets itself out to just be super exaggerated and in your face and like wild and ridiculous. They do a good job at the very least of setting the tone that the whole movie is going to just be a sensationalized like situation in every facet, not even in like some political sense. Just everything is like wild and sensationalized, and it kind of works, right? It's just an annoying part of the movie for me. You know, not that big of a deal.
The recent past. Give us a smile, blondie. Seriously? We get Barbie explaining that all of the men who are leering at her and gazing at her, they have an undertone of violence. Everything's she's threatened. She's physically threatened because this is the real world. The real world is not like Barbie Land. In the real world, all women are victims. They are deep and abiding victims of the system.
I think that again, I think it was disproportionate, but like I think that there's probably an aspect to some women, and that makes them feel like they might be, sexually assaulted by some men. Men massively disproportionately physically and sexually assault people in general, and I think that some women are more afraid of men than we think. And I think part of that is because we don't necessarily talk about things the right way. There might be a little bit of a victim complex that's being considered too hard or intensely. But then also another part of it is like as a man, as a person in some kind of position of power, we'll say, like when you know if you're just not going to be violent, but maybe some women just don't necessarily know and they get a little afraid. Yeah, sure. If you want to argue that it was a little victim complexy, for sure. Like again, I thought it was a little in your face and a little annoying in some parts. Yeah, okay. I mean, I agree with it generally. It didn't ruin the movie because the movie was still good outside of that. So, and I think it might have resonated with a lot of women, even if it was sensationalized. So,
as we'll learn by the use of the word patriarchy no less than 10 times in this film. She gets arrested like twice for various crimes. Even the police officers are rabid, raging sexists. The police officers are hitting on Barbie. They're making observations about her appearance. Ken, meanwhile...
It was funny, though. It was so funny. It was funny to me. I'm sorry. I thought it was hilarious.
I was getting super happy because Ken, who's been sort of an underling in Barbie Land, now he's realizing he's part of the patriarchy, and the patriarchy is awesome. Ken
yes! I love it!
You might imagine at this point that the way the film is going to go is that Ken and Barbie are going to have to some sort of agreement about seeing each other as equal human beings. You might imagine that's where it's wrong.
That's where it goes.
Not where the film is going to go.
No, that's where it goes. That's exactly where it goes. The problem is that Ben doesn't get it because it doesn't tell you. This is one thing I like about the movie is it doesn't tell you everything. You kind of have to like figure it out and go in context clues. Like I already explained, the end is about how both a male and female dominated society are bad and how like overall what should happen is a balanced society. But they don't explicitly tell you that's the meaning of the movie. They just kind of make a little bit of a joke about it. But that's the meaning that comes out of it. Right? You have to watch it yourself to really get it, but...
You might have thought that what you were going to get was Ken gets treated with respect as a person, and Barbie gets treated with respect as a person. And that's better. Nope, wrong. In the end, not to skip ahead, Barbie Land just gets restored, and the men are still subservient.
There's lightning in my area, so it knocked the stream out. It knocked everything out. All right, we're good. Let's continue.
Thought that what you were going to get was Ken gets treated with respect as a person, and Barbie gets treated with respect as a person. And that's a better... Nope, wrong. In the end... Not to skip ahead, Barbie Land just gets restored and the men are still subservient. That's the best version of the world.
Incorrect. Literally, our amazing black president in the movie says, we don't want to go back to the way things were. We want things to be different now. And then they made more inclusive for the men. And then they made a joke about how like the men can have like lesser roles, similar to like their portrayal of our society.
Okay, so Ken is walking around and he's really enjoying the patriarchy and all of this.
Yep.
And he explains that men rule this world, and he goes to Mattel, and all the members of the board are men. By the way, I'd like to see a corporate breakdown
I loved Will Ferrell in the movie. It was so funny.
Of the Mattel board. I'll bet I can find it.
Okay.
Like the CEO of Mattel for 30 years was a woman. So there's that. They pretend that
430 or not anymore though. That was one of them. But
like Mattel is all run by men. So now I want to know.
Yeah, like again, it might have been a little annoying. It was a sensationalized view of the world, like through a hyperbolic lens of like men run everything. Men do disproportionately run more things than women. Right? It may not be as exaggerated as the movie shows us, but like that's kind of part of it. And you could find it annoying, but
who's on the board? Okay, Chairman and CEO is a dude. The board includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It includes 5 women. So it's 6 men and 5 women. Clearly patriarchal domination.
Okay.
Just wanted to look that up just for the sake of, accuracy.
Okay.
Whenever I do these reviews, like, oh, you're taking the movie too seriously. The movie takes itself too seriously, guys.
Yeah, you're right. You just went on a whole tear about how they made a joke about beaching people off, but the movie takes itself too seriously. You're right, Ben. You fucking got me.
It pretends to be a comedy, but it's taking itself super seriously. Fine. So it's all men at the top of Mattel, and they realize that Barbie and Ken have escaped Barbie land. And this presents some sort of threat. What kind of threat?
They actually don't care that Ken escapes, but,
Because the writers are shitty, they don't bother explaining. They're just like, a threat. And Will Ferrell acts all weird and goofy, like Will Ferrell. And he's funny because it's Will Ferrell acting weird and goofy. But he's not funny because it's just Will Ferrell with no actual plot or dialogue to speak of, just being weird. We'll fill that
sure, I guess.
in later. There's so many places in the script where it's basically like the writers they left a gap and they're like, we'll leave a couple asterisks, we'll fill it in later. And then later they got there and they're like, nah, we'll just skip right over it. Fine.
Not for nothing, but like this is one thing I've been saying for a while. Not every movie needs to make perfect sense if they set the tone correctly. Like, a lot of the old movies are funny because they're just so crazy and stupid and preposterous. And they have like, bro, Little Nicky is just ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's just like kind of dumb. Like, they had an overall narrative, and the movie wasn't meant to be taken super seriously. But overall, like, I'd say watch the movie, you'll get a better idea. But it has a decent storyline and plot, but it comes second to just the concept of like, let's make a Barbie movie that is a comedy driven and a bit of a social commentary on men-women dynamics. You know?
So they figured they got to track down Barbie and Ken.
Yeah, they don't care about tracking down Ken.
Meanwhile, Barbie is trying to track down...
Yeah, like Cocaine Bear. Where's our commentary on that? Cocaine Bear sensationalizes cocaine in our modern media movie industry. This would never happen.
The girl who's playing with her. And she mistakenly thinks that it is a teenage girl who is playing with her and who is unhappy.
Which, by the way, it's funny, the scene, this girl sitting down at a school, and there are 4 girls, and each one of them is supposed to represent one of the Bratz dolls. That kid is supposed to represent a Bratz doll. It's a little Easter egg. If you know Bratz dolls, I don't. Saw TikTok. Don't care. I made it up. I didn't make it up. This is true. So.
And at this point, she receives a lecture from the teenage girl about how Barbie has ruined the world and actually is fascist. How
yes.
Barbie is
and
a
cringe.
sexualized capitalistic emblem.
It's not necessarily wrong, but it's annoying and cringe. And then again, throughout the movie, you're made to learn that while maybe nowadays it is very corporate, that back then, when it first came out, it was the only alternative to just baby dolls. And it was like a representation that women could do more than just grow up to be mothers. They could be more than that. They could have a career. And then even the main character of the movie, America Ferrara, I think that's her name, she even says, I think that there should be representation. Like some women want to be just mothers, and that's great. Or they might want to work, or they might want to do both, or they might want to do neither. And I think we should have representation all around. So the movie does a good job at like taking that criticism and kind of like explaining it through the process of the movie if you take it in. I watched the movie, but like it doesn't make a hard stance about how Barbie and Mattel is horrible. It doesn't. In fact, the end of the movie is like the owner of the creator of Barbie, it goes on like a conversation about how Barbie was always supposed to just be a representation that women could do everything. It's not supposed to be like some kind of a corporate greed thing. And it's more than just that. It's a conversation about how women who used to grow up with Barbie, they used to love it, and it represented like, freedom. And kids nowadays just don't listen, or more, whatever, more diversity or whatever. And kids nowadays maybe don't really absorb that message from the Barbie dolls. It's a commentary on different generational perspectives on it, bro. Watch the movie, man. You just watched clips, clearly, okay? Somebody broke it down for you, obviously.
How Barbie has created unattainable feminine ideals.
In some senses, yeah. They're all, because all of them are like conventionally attractive, you'd say.
How Barbie is ruining the planet with rampant consumerism. You get like this full lecture right in the middle of the film. It's truly awful.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, yeah.
It's truly.
I mean, do I need all these Funko Pops back here? Probably not, but I'm getting constantly beamed into my head. Buy. You know, it's my fault for not resisting, but it's something to consider.
Awful. She's called a fascist. By the way, it only sets up the only good line of the film. Truly, in my opinion, there's one good line in the film, and that is where Barbie is trying to contemplate whether she's a fascist or not, and she says, "I don't control the railways or the flow of commerce." Now, there's only one.
I thought it was interesting that Ben didn't bring up the fact that a guy walked up and grabbed their ass, and Barbie just punched the fuck out of him. It was just kind of a funny moment. She didn't sit there and like whine about it. She got like sexually assaulted, and then she just punched the fuck out of the guy, and it was funny. I mean, it wasn't funny that she got assaulted, but it was funny that she fought back and they didn't make a big deal out of it, you know?
One problem with that line, as with the entire movie, there is no character consistency. Barbie is supposed to be an idiot bubblehead piece of plastic.
No. What? No, she's not.
From Barbie Land.
Well, yeah, that's how she starts. And then she goes through a character journey when she starts having existential thoughts because her like owner was playing with her and had the same thoughts. And then she grows into a person with thoughts and feelings and emotions. And the movie paces that out. She goes through a journey to go through from a one-dimensional like idiot to somebody that had a little bit more intelligence, but she wasn't like super intelligent. She wasn't amazing at everything either. She had to like earn everything. Like they didn't, the women didn't just rule the world and win. They won, you know, or they obtained their objective slowly. Like it wasn't just this instant, here you go, they win. It was like an actual, there was a journey to it. And Michael Cera was in it. It was funny.
How does she know what a fascist is? How does she know?
I don't know, but it's a fucking, it's
about
not
the flow of commerce. Like again, just in terms of character consistency.
You're right. She should have sat down and learned what fascism was.
See, like characters who actually are the characters makes no sense whatsoever. So, meanwhile, Ken is wandering around, enjoying the patriarchy more and more.
Yeah,
it
was awesome. And Ryan Gosling was the best part of the movie. So I'm sorry, and so was the guy from the Asian guy from the Marvel movie that wasn't well received, but he was in that one show about Canadian Koreans. It was fun. I forgot what it's called, but it was really funny.
He keeps asking men about the patriarchy. And at one point, he asks a dude about the patriarchy. And the guy says, well, that's not really the way that it works here anymore. He says, really? He says, no, it still works that way. We just hide it really well.
No, actually what happens is the guy's like, there's a whole thing about how Ken goes around and he tries to be a surgeon and a doctor and like he belittles the women. Like it was kind of funny. I thought it was funny. And then he goes to a guy, he's like, hey, I want to work for you. I'm a man. That should be enough, right? He's like, no, you need an MBA and a master's, blah, 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 and all this other shit. And then the guy's like, oh, and then the business owner actually comments and said, you're actually better off not being a guy nowadays. You know what I mean? Because it's true with quotas. And then he says, but we hide, but sometimes it still is because we hide it pretty well. It was kind of a commentary on how, like, yeah, on like if you're not a man, it's sometimes easier to get a job, but not really necessarily. You know what I mean? Like that was kind of the dig was like, you know, now we have to focus on particular quotas for different people, but it's still easier if you're a dude. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's kind of funny. It's true. There's quotas at the job I used to work at. And then I saw one of the fucking higher ups, one of the guys, take somebody's application, a woman's application. I want to be a mechanic and just throw the garbage. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so.
Again, you can't even present the mild other side of the film. And
they did.
This sort of nonsense continues. The first third of the film is about how Mattel is kind of bad for creating this fancy land. Second third of the film is about the real world evils of the patriarchy. Oh, the patriarchy. Oh, the patriarchy.
It's actually not about how it was bad for them creating it. It was more that it turned into a consumerist kind of a thing, but okay.
Culminating in an idiotic line where one of the low-level members of Mattel is with the board and Barbie is looking for a woman at the board. And the low-level man says, I'm a man with no power. Does that make me a woman?
That line, I started dying laughing. Because yes, it does make you a woman. If you're a weak man, you're a woman. I'm sorry. I know you're going to think that's sexist. That line resonated with me so much. And I know it was probably critiquing people who maybe think like that. And I know that that's not a correct thought and it's kind of sexist. But when I see a weak man, I'm like, yeah, you're not a man. And like, yeah, that was kind of a funny joke. Am I a woman if I'm a weak man? It's like, yeah. Like, no, of course not. But like, yes, you know what I mean? It was just a little bit funny to me. But that's a conversation about the way that we platform like the male perspective and we kind of like set into a secondary role the female perspective where if you're like a dominating powerful man you can run the world and own everything, but if you're not then you're basically just a woman in a support role. And that's the way that we've kind of presented things for a long time, right? I still thought it was such a funny line. I don't even care that it's a little sexist. It was funny to me. You just are, you're a party pooper.
That's what makes you a woman. Okay? And in any case,
Oh,
we get here a few obscure jokes about Proust Barbie, because again, Noah Baumbach has to show that he wrote some of the script. He made a reference to Proust. Doesn't that make him clever? Ooh.
I don't get what you're
Next,
saying.
he will make a reference,
Proust
I would
Barbie?
assume, to Victor Hugo. Wow. Proust.
I don't know. I guess I missed it.
Idiots who think they're smart. It's total.
Ben, ironic.
Okay, then
I love you, Ben, but this isn't it.
Barbie escapes the Mattel building. They were going to package her up and they were going to send her back to Barbie Land. And she instead runs and she escapes the Mattel building.
Yeah, she's like, can I go to the bathroom? And they're like, yeah, sure, go take a piss. And then she goes and she's just running out the building, running out the door. And Will Ferrell's character goes, I guess she had to pee real bad. It was just so dumb. It was so stupid.
And she hooks up with America Ferrera.
Yeah.
So America Ferrera is the actual one who's playing with Barbie as a youth. And it's her daughter who Barbie had originally approached. Twist! Okay, and she decides that in order to escape the Mattel executives, she's going to have to bring both of them back to Barbie Land. Why does she bring both of them back to Barbie Land?
Because it was cool.
No one knows. There's no actual, there's no explanation as to why she's supposed to bring both of them back to Barbie Land. Supposedly,
it's a Barbie movie. It's not like Meet the fucking Titans. You know what I mean? Like there were some parts that were like courtesies. It's a comedy. You know, it's okay if the comedy isn't perfectly structured.
It's because she needs to escape back to Barbie Land, but she could do that without the two of them.
You're right.
But she decides she's going to bring them back.
Okay.
So she brings them back to Barbie Land. Meanwhile, the Mattel executives are chasing her. Now, question: why are they chasing her? They achieved their goal. Barbie is back in Barbie Land. Why are they still chasing her?
Well, Ben, I don't know if you heard this, but they literally explain it, right? And it isn't even explained particularly well, but it's still explained, right? They get back to Barbie Land, and Ken is now back there pushing like patriarchal ideas, and it's fucking awesome. They have like a new Ken house and everything, and somehow Ken, bringing that patriarchal influence, brainwashes all the women to rub their feet. Fantastic, I loved it. They start getting fucking monster trucks and shit. They make the house like a man houses. They start having fucking horses and shit. They talk about how it was awesome. I loved it. I resonated with it more than anything else, and that had an impact on the real world where they started actually making those, and they were making money. But then they were like, "Oh, who cares then? We're making money." And Will Ferrell just like makes some weird one-liner. He's like, "No, it's not about just the money. It's also about fulfilling young girls' dreams in the least creepy way." And it was just like a stupid line. You could argue that it was a bad explanation because again, it's a fucking comedy movie. Okay, the same way where Adam Sandler goes back and like fucking Billy Madison or whatever. I don't think it's Billy Madison, but you know which movie I'm talking about. And he goes and does like the first 12th grade. Did you question the fucking realism of that? Probably not. Right? Because it's just like a silly little stupid thing. It's the movie saying we don't really have an answer, but we want this to go this way because it's like a fucking dumb Barbie movie. So I did buy a Depression Barbie. It's called my wife. They had a Depression Barbie commercial and I was rolling. Because it's like my wife. It's like, oh, I'm depressed. I'm just going to sit on Instagram for 7 hours looking at pictures of all my friends that are like fucking happily married and stuff. And we're happily married. But like when my wife looks at Instagram and sees like women having babies on there, she gets the same feeling. And then rewatches like some random show. My wife has watched Grey's Anatomy all the way through like 8 times. It's like, oh my God, this is such a woman thing. It was so funny.
No one knows. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, they explain.
They literally say there will be consequences you can't even imagine. And then they're like, what consequences? And
the consequences were funny that they came up with, though.
Fill in the blank. And some dude says something about a podcast with 2 trees. You're like, that's.
Yeah, he's like, will it be like a podcast with 2 trees or a choir of 2,000 fathers? And it's just like the delivery made me laugh. And he's like, no, worse. I was like, okay.
It's the laziest shitty writing. God.
Okay, Ben.
Okay, anyway. So Ken, in the meantime, he's already headed, while she was, futzing around over at Mattel, Ken is already headed back to...
No, he was already back by this point, Ben, you fucking asshole. I literally, like, I just got, like, there's no way. He was already back. He was having an influence on the real world by spreading patriarchy to the Barbie land. And that's what was making all this toy sales fucking crazy. That's what made them want to go back to Barbie land with them to try to stop it and put things back to perfectly normal.
To Barbie land.
I enjoyed BBW Barbie. I like the actress a lot. She did a show. I don't remember what it's called. My wife will tell me in the chat. About like a young girl in like England who goes through growing pains. It's like a fat, like a fat girl, and it was like a really good show. My wife liked it a lot. It resonated with her a lot, and it was well written. So I liked that actress.
Where he has immediately established the patriarchy.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Just to point out here, The point of the film is the matriarchy is amazing.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not. It is not the point of the film. It's not that women-dominated shit was better. It really wasn't. You can't, if you got that out of it, you just didn't watch it. I don't know what to tell you.
Women are amazing at everything.
No, it wasn't.
Ken walks in, and within 2 seconds, he has taken over all of Barbie.
Yup, because men are the best, baby.
And he has turned it into the Kendom. Within 2 seconds. So apparently the women are so unbelievably competent and brilliant and great at everything in Barbie Land that an idiot man walks in and takes over the whole place inside of 2 seconds. Fine. So he takes over the entire place. We later learn that's because the women, they didn't know what was coming. We later learned they didn't have immunity. And the way that they get immunity...
Damn, he just said the word coming, and I thought of cum. And I thought about how I haven't masturbated in 2 days because I have to jerk off tomorrow and get my semen's tested at the doctor, and how I'm embarrassed I got to jerk off in public and somehow come into a cup, even though my fucking cum is like a shotgun blast. I'm nervous.
Is by learning to hate the men that you got. That's the way that they have immunity. And the way that they get immunity is by learning to hate the men.
Well, no, it's not about learning to hate the men. It was more about like learning the historical oppression of women and like how hard it is to be a woman. Like whatever. Okay.
That's the way that they have to learn to hate the men. Okay, so Ken decides he's going to go back and he's going to establish his patriarchal.
And then they did an awesome song and dance, and it was amazing.
System.
They did a literal war scene enacted with lacrosse sticks and like sticky dart bows and arrows and dumb shit and fake horses, like just to stick with the horse, and they transitioned that beautifully into a theatrical number scene. A theatrical number. It was incredible. It was actually impressive, and I don't like I don't like that kind of stuff, but it was good.
We only learned this when Barbie heads back with America Ferrera and Random Daughter, and Ken immediately starts acting like the jerks in the patriarchy, right? He calls her baby. Oh no, he calls her baby.
Yeah,
the greatest of all insults. He calls.
Well, they weren't dating, and he that's presumptuous to just call a woman baby that you're not like actually dating.
Her baby, and then America Ferrera is trying to explain to Barbie what exactly is going on. And she's like, it's just like the indigenous people and smallpox. They had no immunity.
There you go.
Howard Zinn wrote the script. So the ladies in Barbie Land had no immunity to the magic of the patriarchy, the magic. Women were seduced into... So just to point out here, the actual argument the movie is making is that if women enjoy men, it's because they have been brainwashed by the patriarchy.
That's not what I got out of that, but okay.
Make this message explicit in just a few minutes in the film. And when I say a few minutes, I mean several years, because this film took years off my life. It is long, it is boring, and it's terrible. Okay, so the Kens are about to perform. None of this makes any damn sense. Okay, the Kens.
Because it's a comedy fucking movie. No kidding. Were you saying the same thing at Little Nicky? Like, what are you talking about? It's a comedy.
Are about to have a vote to change the Constitution. Why? What?
So that they can exclude women. That was the reason.
Ken literally just sees power. He's a fascist. What the f*** is he gonna vote for?
Because he's not a real fascist, Ben. He still respects the vote, so he's letting only the men vote based.
Well, why are they voting? Like, he sees power. Also, what is the breakdown demographically of the Kens and the Barbies? Are there as many Kens as Barbies? Because why would they hold a vote? The Kens appear to be in a minority in Barbie Land. There are a lot more Barbies than Kens.
Nah, there's not. When you watch the war scene, there's like 1,000 of them.
So if that's the case, why even do the democratic vote thing? Why not just seize the power? Because then you wouldn't have...
They already did. They had the power regardless. They were voting to change the Constitution with just men. Again, it doesn't have to make perfect sense of fucking comedy, bro.
The rest of the dumb plot of this stupid film. So they decide they're going to hold the vote. And not only are they going to hold the vote, they're going to be very fair about it. They're going to hold it in 48 hours. They're going to hold it in a couple of days.
Yes.
To make sure that the Barbies have time to actually form a counter plan. Why would they do that? No reason.
Yeah.
Asterisk. We'll fill it in later. Okay, so they decide they're going to hold this dumbass vote. And the Barbies learn about this, and they're Barbie is very depressed because Barbie realizes that all the other Barbies have been taken in by the patriarchy, and this is extremely bad. Now, here's one place where you have a serious continuity error in the film. So, Margot Robbie, who plays Barbie at the beginning, half the time she plays Barbie is kind of stiff, like a doll, and half the time she plays Barbie is just kind of normal.
Yeah, that's because it goes from her being a Barbie to a person. That's the end of the movie, is her becoming a person. That's the point, Ben. It's supposed to. That's why it's supposed to happen. She goes through a transition of being as stiff like a doll to a person. No shit that happens. That's the end. Sorry for ruining the movie, but that's what happens. That's why. Okay.
And so now she plays it super stiff like a doll. She sits down, in kind of 90-degree position like a Barbie would, and she keels over in the 90-degree position.
Oh yeah, it was funny.
It would be funny, except she hasn't been doing it the whole film.
Okay.
And the level of
She's a doll.
inconsistency and bad filmmaking here is just
Ben, this is a pedantic criticism.
off the chart.
Okay.
They needed somebody to actually sit down with them and be an adult in the room, and no one was there. So at this point, America Ferrera and daughter decide they've given up on Barbie because Barbie won't fight for herself.
Yeah.
And so they take off. And Michael Cera, for no reason, is in this film. And he's in the back of the car. And
Fuck you. I told you, Ben is only upset that he wasn't cast to play Alan. Michael Cera was in the film because it was representative of Ken's best friend Alan, which was discontinued almost immediately. And they made Michael Cera it. And you want to know one of the biggest reasons why Michael Cera is in the movie? Because it's a fucking comedy, Ben. And Michael Cera is funny. That's the whole point of the movie. And that's it.
we don't know why.
Yeah, I'm confused about that.
And he serves no purpose other
Yes, he does. He's funny. It's a comedy. The purpose he serves is humor.
than to have a random fight scene. And also,
Which was just bizarre. It was funny.
just that they can make a Trump building the wall reference. Right? They're apparently the Kens are going to build a wall to keep people from getting in or getting out. Now, here's the weird.
I didn't think of Trump when I saw it. It literally, the joke was like, oh, we got to get out. We got to escape here before they figure out how to build the wall sideways, because they were just building it up. It was just stupid because all the men in that world were dumb because they were in a matriarchy and women are stupid. That's it. It was just, I mean, the last part I was just being a little silly, but like they are supposed to be kind of dumb, right? Like in general, and that's because they were under a society that like didn't value them at all.
part. No one has ever entered or exited Barbie Land before. Why are you building a wall? What is the necessity for a wall? No one explains. It's just a dumb
So that they can't leave. The women can't leave.
Trump reference that everybody who is friends with Noah Baumbach
I didn't even think of that, bro. It's not that deep, bro. It really wasn't that deep.
and Greta Gerwig can laugh and nod like the
Sure.
morons they are.
Okay.
And so the daughter and the mom, they decide, no, we have to go back and we have to save Barbie Land. They're going to save
Yes,
Barbie Land.
They did.
And who do they go to? They go to wise, weird lesbian Barbie.
Yes.
They go back to Kate McKinnon and they ask
Is it like bad that she might be a lesbian? I don't get it.
her about this. And they bring Barbie with them. And they're going to try to figure out a strategy. How do they stop the Kens from winning the vote? Now, you might say to yourself, wait, aren't the women majority? Do they not have agency, the women? They have no agency, apparently.
The women aren't allowed to vote. Ken Shapiro. Though that's part of it. You're missing major plot points. It wasn't a vote of everybody. It was a vote of just the men. The women were brainwashed. They didn't get votes anymore. Like, you could, again, criticize the movie for some of its failings, but this is like the fourth time that you just forgot part of the movie. You said you watched it. There's no fucking way that I, a fat, obese piece of shit that just saw the movie an hour ago with my wife, is somehow understands the continuity of the movie better than you and 7 people that you went with to see the movie and then sat down with, and then your operation is 10 times my operation, and you've still managed to get parts of a Barbie movie incorrectly. There's no fucking way that you're avoiding these things.
So apparently the women have no agency and they are a majority, and yet they have to be deprogrammed.
They're not allowed to vote.
They're going to be deprogrammed by weird Barbie and her crazy cadre of feminist heroes.
Well, no, those people were brainwashed. They were deprogrammed by America Ferrera's character, again, explaining how annoying it is to be a woman or how hard it is to be a woman. And again, I thought it was annoying and preachy. It resonated with my wife, so I respect that. I'm a man. I have a man's perspective. My wife's a woman. She has a woman's perspective. I thought it was like just kind of cringe and annoying. That part was annoying, but then it was funny how they got the Barbies away from the Kens to deprogram them, because they had and like one of them was to just stroke the male ego, and I thought it was so funny because they made a line that was basically something along the lines of that we need to make these men feel like men. And I was rolling because that's what my wife makes me feel. I've said this before. One of the things about being a man is you just need your ego stroked sometimes. You don't always have to be in control. But if a woman can make you feel in control, that's all it is. It's an ego thing. Men just want to feel like men. It was funny. I resonated with it as a man. It was funny. So that one aspect of how they deprogrammed was cringe, but like stuff around it was funny and interesting and humorous, and I liked it. That's why I liked it, because it had a little cringe, but then there was like a funny commentary that like I resonated with me as a man.
I love you guys.
And this is when we start getting into the real. You think it's propagandistic so far? Oh man, wait.
Oh shit.
Here's where we get into like the real meat of it. Okay, so we end up with Barbie complaining. She's complaining to weird Barbie. And she says, oh my God, they've brainwashed all the other Barbies. They've brainwashed all the other Barbies. She says, quote, either you're brainwashed or you're weird and ugly. There is no in between.
Okay. Yes, that was a funny line.
And weird Barbie says, tell me about it. And this is the perspective of the film.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the general commentary there is like either you're brainwashed and you go along with the system that prioritizes women's, attractiveness in the society. So you either go along with it and you're attractive, or you're weird and ugly because you're not part of the in club of being an attractive woman, right? And so like there's a level of truth that again it's a little cringe, a little on the nose, but okay, like you just go, yeah, okay, sure.
Either you're a third wave feminist kook who hates men, like truly hates men, or you're brainwashed.
Hi, Barbie.
I mean, they literally called the feminist, by your perspective, the feminist kooks ugly. So it was kind of funny.
Hi, Ken.
There's no in between.
It's kind of true. Not to be an asshole, most feminists are kind of weird and ugly. Let's just be real here. And the unattractive women who are okay with the system, they think they're attractive because hot guys fuck them because they want to get a nut in, and that makes those girls feel like they could actually date them when they can't. They're just going 2 numbers down to get free, easy pussy. I figured it out, guys. I'm the fucking greatest.
There's no actual relationship between men and women. There can't be any sort of fulfilling relationship between men and women.
Okay.
There are no decent males in the entire film. All the men are garbage.
Not really. They're all actually very likable. Every single one of the male characters is likable. Even when they're the ones doing the bad thing, you still root for them in some capacity because you feel bad for them being in a society that oppresses them. The Barbie society was oppressive to men. The movie tells you that. The movie shows you that. And the movie empathizes with the characters that are seen as the bad guys, which are the Kens, by saying like, hey, the reason they're doing this is because they were so oppressed for so long. The movie does a good job at showing how bad a patriarchy and a matriarchy would be. So
the only man who even appears mildly is America Ferrer's husband, who's just kind of a joke. He's there for literally 10 seconds in the film, making jokes about how he can't speak Spanish. That's his whole role.
Apparently, that was a callback to another America Ferrera movie.
In the film, every other man is a piece of shit in the film.
No, they're not. Absolutely not. Go watch. You didn't watch the movie. I don't know what to tell you.
Everyone. And so
Will Ferrell's character is kind of a piece of shit, but like all these guys are likable as fuck. You will walk if you watch the Barbie movie, you will walk out liking every single one of the Kens and Alan.
This is the perspective of
in my opinion. And maybe this is something, man, the Kens were the best part of the movie, even though they were the bad guys in some capacity, because I felt bad for them. They were not bad characters. They were well written, and they were goofy. They were silly, but they were great.
The film, when you come right down to it, either you are brainwashed or you are weird and ugly. And Barbie's like, yeah, that's what Barbie.
He's trying to make it seem like the movie was centralized around that one point, when that was just like a one-off silly point.
Barbie says. I mean, the only decent male is Alan, who apparently wants to wear pink and probably is supposed to be gay. I mean, I think it's supposed to be pretty clear.
He's not. No, he wasn't supposed to be gay. He was supposed to be more feminine, but not gay. There is a character that they do reference as being gay. It was I think the actor is actually gay. He was a gay character on the show. I forgot what it was called. I mentioned it before, like a sex show, sex ed, sexual education, which was a good show. You should watch it. And they kind of gay code him a little bit. And one of the lines he makes was basically, I don't want to date. There was something along the lines, for what I got out of it, and I might be remembering, it was along the lines of like, I like Barbie, but I don't want to like be with Barbie. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, oh, they're telling you without telling you that he's kind of gay. It's fine. But Michael Cera wasn't supposed to be gay. He was just supposed to be a little bit more of a feminine man.
From the film, although really the take of the film is that all the Kens are gay. That's really the take of the film, is that it's all homoerotic.
I guess.
Kind of stuff.
Let's beach off. Anyone who wants to beach him off has to beach me off first.
I will beach both of you off at the same time.
In any case, the film.
They're not gay. Dude, this is how you know Ben isn't like a real guy. Like, he's never hung out with dudes, because dudes say gay shit to each other all the time. The gayest people in the world are straight men, and that's a fact. Men will sit down in a room and they'll fucking try to grab each other's dicks and their asses. They'll play gay chicken. They'll put their fucking balls on each other's. Look at your friend Steven Crowder, Ben. When I was working with a bunch of guys, we used to slap each other. We used to like try to go for each other's balls, like just to be like kind of gay. Like we would just kind of go for like just to like see how far we could go with being gay with each other before the other one, like with gay chicken. It was just a silly one-off point.
Filmmakers are so insecure, with even their own script, that they then have the narrator jet in to say, Margot Robbie might not be the best person to make this point, right? Because Barbie's saying, I don't feel beautiful anymore. And they're like, Margot Robbie. They literally jet in to say, Margot Robbie might not be the best person to make this point. Then
yeah, it was funny. There was a point about how like Barbie felt like she was ugly, and then it was a funny like what's it called, a wall break. And they're like, Margot Robbie's not the greatest character to present this idea that she's become ugly. It was just funny. It was funny.
Maybe you shouldn't have written the point. Then maybe you shouldn't write it like that. Maybe you should not be a writer.
Nah,
maybe you could do that. Okay. No. Okay, this is when we get the full bore thesis of the film.
Yeah.
And guess what, guys? The thesis of the film, made by women, made for women, made starring women, funded by a studio that is largely staffed by men. The take of the film is that it is impossible to be a woman in the modern age.
That's not the take of the film, Ben. That's not the take of the film. The take of the film is really more about how women shouldn't be held to the standard of just being about their physical beauty. They should be able to do what they want to do, obviously as long as they're capable of doing it. They should be able to be moms, stay-at-home moms, or they say this explicitly, by the way, at the end. They want to be, there's like, oh, make a normal person Barbie, a normal girl Barbie. She doesn't have to be super beautiful. You know, she could be a little bit ugly. It's more about her having like a pretty good day, not a perfect day. She could be a mom if she wants. She could be a stay-at-home mom. She can go to work and be a mom. She could do that. It's not about how it's impossible to be a woman. It was really more just about how difficult it can be to be a woman. That's it. You know what I mean? And I think that there's a level of truth that I think it's tough to be a woman. I mean, you're a person who literally... Oh, there was one fucking moment. I'm going to talk about this with my wife on Sunday on the podcast, so we'll be able to flesh it out more. But that's all it is. It's not like this oppressive, horrible thing. It's just about like a little bit better representation with women. It's not that big of a deal, Ben. You're being sensationalized.
Absolutely impossible. And so we get this long speech of America Ferrera talking about how it's so difficult to be a woman. They want us to be this way, but not that way. They want us to be thin, but they don't want us to say that we're thin.
By the way, this speech actually happened earlier because Ben didn't watch the movie, right? Very clearly. So this speech was what deprogrammed the Barbies. That was about that's the 70%-ish of the movie. That deprogrammed the Barbies. He's like, he doesn't even know the fucking the continuity of the movie.
They want us to earn money, but they don't want us to earn money. They want us to do this, and they don't want us to do that. They want us to answer for men's bad behavior, but they don't want us to offend men.
They made this interesting point about how, like, if you're a beautiful woman, you're not allowed to say that you're a beautiful woman. Almost speaking against the body positivity narrative that, like, you're not allowed to appreciate the beauty of your own body. There was a moment in there that's how it was communicated to me, and I was like, "That's interesting." You know, like you can, you know, you. It was just interesting. Like it was part of it was like you're expected to be like I forget the specifics, but that was what was communicated. I was like, "That's interesting." It wasn't really like an SJW jerk off festival. It was a little more nuanced than that.
They want us to do this, and they don't want us. Oh my God, it's so difficult to be a woman. So the same tried, truistic bullshit that they've been propagating in every new wave feminist film for the last 45 years in the United States is now essentially telescoped into this one speech from America Ferrera, including a few cutaway shots of Margot Robbie looking up adoringly at America Ferrera as she explains that it's super hard to be a woman. It's so damn difficult.
Probably is. You know, it's hard to be a guy too, but you know, I'm a man, so
to be a woman. You know why? Because of the patriarchy. Because of the men. That's the actual story.
Again, we probably have like the best society for women to live in, but there's still a few like social aspects that are hard for women that men don't have to deal with, and there are some things that men deal with too. But like the movie wasn't about men. I don't know if you want to fund your own like male version of it, Ben, if you want. But
of the film, and then they make a couple of other dumb references, right?
Okay.
Zack Snyder cut. The men, they like the Zack Snyder cut. Wow, that's terrible. Okay, fine.
Okay.
Then they say, you know what we need to do? We need to disabuse all of these Barbies of the patriarchy. How are we going to do this? We need to allow them to live with the cognitive dissonance required to be a woman under the patriarchy. That's a line from Barbie. Now again, they keep doing this. They keep having Barbie drop these extremely literate and well-articulated lines, but she's supposed to be a plastic doll idiot.
Authority should derive from the consent of...
She's literally supposed to be growing as a person. into a person. So even if you disagree with what she says, the point, like Ben's not getting it. She goes from a dumb bimbo nothing to a human. That's the point of the movie, is to humanize the Barbie. Literally, Margot Robbie becomes a human at the end of the fucking movie. So of course she's going to start having thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Like she literally cries for the first time in the beginning of the movie when she gets out of Barbie land. Like she's growing into a person with thoughts and feelings, expressions, and emotions.
Of the governed, not from the threat of force.
It doesn't matter. What is their actual strategy? So they have 48 hours to stop this vote, which shouldn't be happening in the first place because it makes no plot sense. Okay. The men are fascists and the women are victims. Yeah. But somehow they've been given 48 hours to stop the vote. So what are they going to do to stop this vote? How are they going to do it? Well, they're going to separate the men and the women.
Barbie!
Ben, they've already done this with the speech that you've talked about.
To turn all the Barbies against the Kens. so subtle. The symbolism is so subtle.
No, they don't turn them against them. They wake them up from their deprogramming. It's fine to disagree with it, but you're not even accurately presenting it.
All the women against the men, and you will save society. That's the message that you could be shoveling directly into the brain of your 8-year-old.
John Cena was in the movie too. He was a merman.
Girl.
It's pretty cool.
If you so choose this weekend.
Maximum volume.
So, they literally say this: get the Barbies away from their Kens. How are they going to achieve this? Well, they're going to make the men complacent and then take their power.
Yeah, they make them. One scene, the girl's like, "How do I do Photoshop?" And the guy's like, honey, this is how you do Photoshop." And sits down and while she's getting his attention, they grab the other girl and deprogram her. They kidnap her and bring her back into. It was funny. It's funny because like men are such ego-driven creatures, and like a woman really can just play fucking dumb, play damsel in distress, and a man will eat it the fuck up. It is so true. And if you don't agree with that, you're just, I don't know what to tell you. I guess you didn't grow up as a fucking man. It's so funny. Like, all a woman has to do is stroke a man's ego, and she's like got him. It's really a big thing. If you can make a man feel like more needed, like you really, it's so true. It's so true. My wife does it, and I know she does it sometimes, and I don't care because I just want to feel needed. I want to feel important, and I know I am to her. But really, that's it. Play damsel in distress. It's literally a fucking trope in movies to be a damsel in distress for men to fucking save. Men resonate. That's what men want. And a lot of men want that. They want to be able to feel useful.
This is how women have achieved power. Now, let me just digress briefly here in how women actually achieved power in Western civilization. The answer is that they lobbied men and men gave it to them.
Yes, yeah, I told you. Men gave it to them. Not that they didn't deserve it in the first place, Ben. Right? Men gave it to them. You should be thankful to the men who created the society that didn't give them power and then gave it to them. It's like, okay, Ben.
Is the actual answer as to how women achieve power in Western civilization.
Okay.
The amendment to the Constitution that
well, this is Barbie land, so
allowed women to vote was passed solely by men because women couldn't vote. It turns out there are a lot of good-hearted men out there who like women and who want women to be able to live lives that they want. It turns out that many of us are husbands and fathers. Many of us have daughters. Many of us love the people we're married.
Did you see this with your daughter? What did she think?
Married to. It turns out,
I guarantee you, her daughter loved the movie. His daughter loved the movie.
That actually describes a huge number of Western men. That we are not your enemies, and yet
the movie doesn't portray men as enemies, though. Not the Ken dolls, but okay.
The premise of the movie is that what actually happened in the feminist movement, women seized the power away from the men.
Okay.
I'm sorry to break it to you, ladies. It ain't true. It ain't true.
Yeah, ladies, you're useless without men. Even men gave you the rights they took away in the first place.
This notion that women vote as a block is not true. Married women vote very much like their husbands, actually.
Okay. What is this?
Single women vote more like a block now than they did before. But it turns out that
what are you talking about?
Individuals, and some women vote one way and some men vote another way. And
okay.
But again, the idea here is very simplistic. Men versus women. Battle royale. And that's what this literally turns into, a battle royale between the women and the men. But really...
No, it doesn't. It's between the men and the men because the women drive a stake between the men. And then the men fight each other.
It's about getting the men to fight each other. They bring all the Barbies one by one. They distract them. They bring the Barbies one by one. And they unbrainwash them.
Yeah, it's almost like people who are married have common interests. Yeah, exactly.
How do they unbrainwash them? Well, they tell them truths like, any power you have must be masked under a giggle. I have a question. I mean,
yeah, men are egotistical. Like, it's easier if you kind of play dumb as a woman and you like get a man to, if you want to get a man to do something, you should make it feel like it's his idea. So
with a lot of women, do they feel like the power that they have has to be masked under a giggle? Was this film written in 1943? Okay. Who wrote this film? Well, we know who wrote this film.
I want a battle pass, the men versus women battle royale.
A feminist writer who gets paid millions of dollars to make horse. One of them says, we have to reject men's advances without damaging their ego.
True.
Or theoretically, you could just reject men's advances and damage their ego because what do you care? You have to protect.
Well, the undertone there is that if you would deny a man's sexual advance or advance, that he might hurt you or berate you in some capacity because men can be violent. That doesn't always happen, but that is something that has happened before. So it's speaking to that concept. So
tend to be confused about money. Is this a real thing? Like, do women pretend to be confused about money?
No, I even said to my wife, I said, women are confused about money. They're just fucking money illiterate. But I still thought it was funny.
And men will explain it to them? This is also, it's such claptrap.
Okay.
And then my very favorite.
Oh, shit, he did a Borderlands reference.
Do you want some pants? Because that's really what this is about, is women really, really want to wear pants. That demonstrates the power of the patriarchy.
There was a scene where a woman who wore pants in the or a Barbie that wore pants in the beginning of the movie was brainwashed and then made to wear like a skirt, and she's like, "Oh, can I have my pants back?" After she's deprogrammed or whatever. So
is that men really don't want women to wear pants, and women really, really want to wear pants.
Love your leg warmers.
Nice ass cut.
And then it's, all the men.
That was a sexual reference in the Toy Story movie, man. I noticed you didn't have a fucking meltdown and talk about how Toy Story is for 7-year-olds, despite the fact that you did that for Barbie this entire fucking video, even though it's for PG-13. But okay.
Being victimized, all the Kens being victimized by these various tactics, up to and including Ryan Gosling hitting on a trans woman, meaning a dude who has a voice deeper than Ryan Gosling's, which is
well, that's part's not true. Like objectively, her voice wasn't deeper than Ryan Gosling's. So.
an actual scene in the film.
Okay.
Which is just great. Okay, so then final step.
Man, what a horrible thing.
Finally, the women have been disabused. So now they're going to play the ultimate prank. The ultimate prank is that they are going to turn the men against each other. How are they going to turn the men against each other? They're going to turn the men against each other by switching partners.
Well, that's not. They get them jealous by like they have them. The guys all start. It was such a weird scene. Start playing a song for the girls. It was so funny. He's like, "Can I play my guitar at you?" And I started laughing because there's times where I'll just do something at my wife to get. It reminded me of like when I made my wife watch Game of Thrones together. You know what I mean? It was like, watch this with me. You know what I mean? It was kind of funny. And then they're all they're all paired up, one Ken to one Barbie. And then like the Barbies pick up their phones at a certain point and they're like, oh, and they just move on to a different Ken that's in the same area. They're all singing the same song. It was a weird scene and it makes them jealous of each other. It was silly.
Get together and Barbie is going to be with Ken, classic Barbie and classic Ken. They're going to be together, but then they're going to move on to the other Kens and the Kens are going to start fighting each other over the ladies.
Yep.
Because they're going.
This is the D-Day scene. It was so funny
to switch over. Now, not to put too fine a point on this, but this makes no sense at all. Because
Ben, that's because you're a fucking virgin that doesn't understand that like women's pussies get wet.
That's what would happen if a bunch of beautiful women decided to switch to other men simultaneously. You know what the men would do?
Gelato_GG just resubscribed for 32 months. So glad you've been on Twitch so I can share this sub.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. I just figured out how to turn my Twitch alerts on.
They would throw a party. So
well, not necessarily, but okay. I mean, if anything, you're being sexist towards men by insinuating that men don't have feelings and don't love women and don't get upset when they go to a different guy.
Turn the men against each other. And then we get a 20-minute long segment of the Kens fighting each other using various implements.
I'm surprised you didn't complain about the fact that all the Kens were paired with different Barbie and they all switched partners, but then some Kens somehow ended up not having a Barbie. It was weird.
Ranging from like small bows and arrows with
this was an awesome scene.
Cups at the end.
This was a fantastic
to tennis
scene.
rackets. And that turns into a musical number.
It was phenomenal.
What does any of this have to do with the plot? Nothing. Literally
nothing. It was fucking awesome, Ben. Shut up. It was the best part of the movie. It was incredible. Go see the movie. The musical theater number was so funny.
It's just a 15-minute digression because they wanted to insert a crappy musical number.
It was a good musical number.
Good dancing.
Speak for yourself, bro.
And then what are the women doing during this time? The women are voting. The women are voting. So now we know the Democrat.
Bro, actually, when they ended the scene of the guy singing and dancing, I was like, the movie was over for me. That was the end of the movie for me. That was the best part of the movie. Because what happens is the men end up coming together and enjoying each other again, holding hands. And they realize they're fighting over these women. But you know what? They're actually friends and some fucking shit. And they come back together. It was incredible.
Democratic turnout strategy. The Democratic turnout strategy in 2024 is going to be to get all of the Republicans to fight with one another using tennis rackets while they go and they do the voting.
Nah, I think you just wait them out. Mitch McConnell basically fucking, I don't know, is like a fucking seizure. So that we probably don't have to get you guys to fight with tennis rackets.
Apparently.
Sorry to Mitch. I'm sure he's upset with his family and everything. I'm sure his family's upset. So, God bless. But I'm just saying, what I'm saying is we need fucking term limits. Age limits. Like 70 max. And yeah, that means that Joe Biden wouldn't be president. Neither would Trump.
So they go and they vote. After they vote, they reestablish exactly basically how it was. The matriarchy.
No, okay. Somewhat. Yeah, well, actually, yeah, they do somewhat, but they don't want to make it exactly the same.
Matriarchy is reestablished.
Kind of. Again, it's more than it's just reestablished. What happens is it mostly reestablished. In fact, Will Ferrell's character is like, yes, thank God it's back to perfectly normal. And the president, the girl's like, no, I don't want it to be back to normal. We want it to be things to be different, and a little bit different and a little bit better. And then some of the men are like, can we have some fucking Supreme Court people sitting on the court? And they're like, no, but we'll give you one lesser court. And then they made a literal commentary of like, and then maybe one day the Barbie society will treat men the same way our society treats women, like almost equally, basically. And it was like a funny commentary. Literally, part of the movie is the Barbies are oppressive people, just so you know. Like, it's like they are oppressive as well. Right? That's the thing. There's no real bad or good guys, except for like the Mattel executives, I guess. But there's no real bad or good guys. Like, everybody's bad and good in different ways. Like, it's actually a pretty intelligent film in some ways.
And Ken, who is now really sad because he's lost his power, and all he wanted in the first place was just to be treated decently by Barbie. Is he treated decently at the end by Barbie?
Yes, he is. She lets him down easy and makes him realize that like his entire identity was just trying to be Barbie's boyfriend, and that he should try to be more and figure himself out. And then he's like, wow, and he has an existential like thought, and like that's what he wants to pursue.
Of course he isn't. That would be silly. At the very end, he is told that he needs to learn to live without Barbie.
Yeah, because what do you think, that she should have to date him? Like, what are you talking about? How is this treating him poorly?
I just don't know who I am without you.
You're Ken.
But it's Barbie and Ken. There is no just Ken.
He, who was literally created as a doll to be with Barbie, needs to learn to be apart from Barbie, and she needs to learn to be apart from him because...
Yeah, because she doesn't actually like him, like sexually. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. Okay.
Atomistic isolation and loneliness is the best way to find fulfillment, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, he's in a society full of hundreds of other dolls. He's going to be okay.
It'll be best for Ken if he never sees Barbie again.
Yeah, he really just wanted to ride horses. That's true.
And it'll be better for Barbie if she never sees Ken again.
That's not what's really said. It's not stated. It's just that they don't date. She does leave to become a person, but it's not about her staying away from him forever. It's just about him finding more meaning than just being Barbie's second fiddle.
Secular humanism is at its finest. We've reached the apotheosis. Men and women don't belong together. They belong very, very much apart. This is all topped off by Issa Rae calling somebody a motherfucker.
He realized he was Ken off at the end. Yeah, he was enough with the K. That was funny.
Again, apart. This is all topped off by Issa Rae calling somebody a motherfucker. Again.
Well, that part happens before, I think. Oh, no, that actually happens after he calls the Mattel people like Will Ferrell a motherfucker. It was kind of funny.
Perfect for your 7-year-old girl who loves Barbie dolls.
Yeah. It's PG-13 and they censored the fuck part, but you're right, Ben. You're okay.
Just perfect for her.
They literally put a Mattel thing over her mouth. It was kind of a silly joke.
And so we learn that men and women are supposed to be separate. They're not supposed to be together.
That's not what's said.
And that maybe the matriarchy will allow the men not to be on the Supreme Court of Barbie Land, but maybe they can get some lower circuit court judgeships.
Yes.
This is what we learn. And we learn one day the Kens might have as much power and influence in Barbie world as women have in the real world.
Yeah.
Because, of course, women are, again, just absolutely subjugated in the real world.
That's not what's said. As much power. It's the idea, again, like there is a dynamic, like a power dynamic. Men tend to still have more power in our society. And, you know, women have the same opportunities nowadays legally, but socially some things aren't quite there. And that's most of the commentary there. If you watch the movie.
You think that's the end of the movie? Wrong. This thing has more endings than Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
So, ending number 1 is we find out that Ken is going to live apart from Barbie and he's going to find himself in being Ken.
What a terrible message to tell men to find themselves emotionally.
The utter joy of self-exploration.
I'm going to come.
Next, we get an ending in which the CEO of Mattel, who's been completely sidelined. You remember the CEO of Mattel? Remember he was supposed to be chasing them into Barbie Land?
Will Ferrell? Have you said his name?
For no apparent reason. So he's now in Barbie Land. We don't know why he's there or what he's there to do, except that we need Will Ferrell.
He's there to try to make sure everything goes back to this way it was.
In the movie to provide no laughs. He doesn't provide any laughs.
He does. I mean, Ben, you're just not, I don't know what to tell you. I'm honestly almost completely convinced that one guy I saw on TikTok say Ben Shapiro has autism I think it's true, because I don't think that Ben understands social cues or any type of humor or anything.
So he shows up. His motivation throughout this movie has been completely inconsistent. He started off wanting to put Barbie back in Barbie Land so that they could make money. And then he is told at one point that when Kens have taken over Kendom, they will make just as much money. He's like, no, that cannot be.
Oh, yeah, now I remember what happens if the Kens take over the Barbie Land. It'll have a big influence on the real world, so they have to put it back to normal. That was the plot.
An ideologue on behalf of women. And then he arrives, and he is told that America Ferrera wants to make ordinary Barbie, which, by the way, would sell 0. Anyway, that will be profitable. And so now he wants to make ordinary Barbie because he's back to being uber capitalist, evil capitalist. He's making money off of Barbie because, again, Mattel are bad guys.
I mean, that's the point of capitalism, is only to do things that make money. Like, we understand this, no? Like, that's a big motivation.
Zegra117 just resubscribed for 9 months.
Hey.
Over 9 months of Papa streams.
Very poggers, brother.
What a tremendous W.
I agree with that. Thank you so much.
They're also the good guys, but they're kind of the bad guys, but they're mostly the good, but they're a little bad. And so that's ending number 2 at this point. So we have the Barbie Ken ending.
Just so you know, it's endings for different characters. We got Ken's conclusion. Then we got America Ferrara, which is the human person's conclusion. And then we move on to Barbie's conclusion. This isn't multiple endings. It's tying off storylines. We got 3 endings. No, you didn't. You got the endings of the characters' plot, of the characters' arcs, and it's not that deep.
We have the CEO of Mattel ending, where he says, we'll make ordinary Barbie, and then girls all over the world will know that ordinariness is fine and okay. Because it's not that girls play with Barbie because they think that she's beautiful and it's aspirational. Okay. No, it's bad. Okay, so then we have...
Well, I don't think that you understand a woman's perspective. Like, I mean, that's part of it, too. But some people just want to... women especially, I think, resonate with being accepted for who they are. If you look at movies that resonate with men versus women, a lot of the male movies that are resonating with men, rather, or the movies that resonate with men, are movies about a character that is not good enough and then becomes better. That's a lot like Luke Skywalker. He's about somebody who's not good enough, and then he goes through his hero's journey, and he becomes better, becomes more powerful. And a lot of these movies are about men getting a thing, becoming more powerful, becoming better, and then basically having power in different ways, whether it's physical or a magical, I don't know, the Force, or financial, or getting women. Whereas movies that resonate with women, or shows even, are about how women are good enough already. And that's what resonates with women, right? And so like a normal or a regular person Barbie doll might resonate with some girls. Hey, you are already good enough, right? Because that's how we teach things, right? That's usually what it is, right? That's the old trope, is that men have to build their value and that women are born with their value, right? And so like that's kind of, if you really get fucking super woke, we're talking about patriarchal ideas about like the way that the male woman like dynamics and relationships. So
ending number 3. You think you're done? Wrong. We're now 2 hours deep into this piece of shit.
Okay.
And we have now dug halfway to China.
You didn't
and
watch
we are going to
so.
keep digging. So we have ending number 3. Rhea Perlman.
You think it would only take 2 hours?
Shows up to lecture us all about the patriarchy.
This literally represents the ghost of the creator of Barbie, by the way, because they tell you that.
Yeah, you haven't heard it enough. We got to beat this sucker into the ground. We are going to take an axe, the blunt end of the axe, and we're just going to beat this thing to death. We're just going to beat it to death. So Rhea Perlman shows up because Barbie, it turns out, she spent too much time in the real world. That was the patriarchy, and was terrible. So terrible that she wanted to stop it from happening in Barbie land. But now she wants to go back there because she actually learned some feelings over in the real world. So she decides that after all, this whole story was just Pinocchio, that she just wants to be a real boy. And
well, Pinocchio wanted to be a real boy from the start. Barbie didn't realize that until the end. But okay.
In what can only be termed a sort of bait and switch, at the very end of the film,
why?
Just to please the core audience, which is moms and daughters, they insert a bunch of footage, I kid you not, like home video footage of moms and daughters playing.
With Barbie. Yeah. Because girls like dolls, and they play dolls with their moms. That's it. That's all it is. Papa, how do you feel when Barbie drops a nuclear bomb on Ken and says, she exclaims, "I am Barbenheimer"? I thought it was the best part of the movie.
That's what it is. Like people living their lives.
I like how this is supposed to be also Oppenheimer, but it's not. It's been just this.
Female ways.
Okay.
Because Rhea Perlman is going to show Barbie what it's like to be a human, and then Barbie is going to say that she really wants to be a human just like you. Just like you.
Okay.
And so they hit you with the nostalgia play. At the very end, the whole movie, which should have been nostalgia and about moms and daughters, instead, the entire movie is not that. The entire movie is instead about how men are evil and terrible. And also Mattel is evil.
That's not what it's about.
And terrible. And then at the very end, they shove in this little nostalgia play in the hope that they can buy back the audience at the very end of the film.
I genuinely think that this movie resonated with a lot of people. Ben, I think, is pretending, I guess, or he really thinks that people hated it. I'm surprised I enjoyed it. My wife enjoyed it more than I did because it resonates with women, especially women who are like women. Like, this isn't really a movie for little girls. This is a movie that like your daughter can go to with your mom too. Like together, you guys can go together. But like a lot of people liked this movie a lot. My theater was like shitting and coming and pissing and farting about how much they liked the movie. You could hear everybody was like shitting all over the place. They loved it. Like he's pretending like the movie was bad. It was good. It was a funny movie. Like, it makes up for some of its cringiness with just the humor and the star cast.
And Barbie decides that she is going to be a real woman now. Now, when she goes, that's ending number 3. There's still one more. So when that happens, when she goes to when she goes into this white area that's supposed to be heaven, because the person who she's talking, Rhea Perlman, is actually the person who actually created the doll.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to be this was supposed to be a secret, because the Mattel was run by men, but the big secret all along is that a woman created the doll.
Wasn't meant to be a secret. We already knew this.
News. It's not a secret.
The narrative wasn't that Mattel wasn't created by women. The narrative that they push in your face a little bit is that women don't run it anymore. It used to be run by women. You know, and again, it seems like there are more women on the board than they portray. That's fair. That's a fair criticism, but that was never the narrative.
She was CEO of the company for 30 years. CEO of Mattel for 30 years, from like 1945 to 1975.
Yeah, she
until
made
the
doll.
IRS caught her for tax evasion or something. The big reveal.
Yeah, and they even make a joke about that. It was funny.
That the patriarchy said that it created Barbie. It didn't. No one thought the patriarchy created Barbie.
I'll be honest with you, I tuned out of it because I didn't resonate with me, and I was getting bored of that part. The ending was kind of boring. That part of the ending was boring. I was like, okay, you know, I get it. Barbie learns feelings, blah, 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 blah. The real meaning of Barbie, you know, whatever.
Again, don't bother with the facts. Don't bother with sense.
What happened
Don't
to
bother
the audio?
with chronology. Don't bother. None of it matters. So, Barbie is now sent back to the real world, and she is now going to experience the apotheosis of what it means to be a human woman.
Yeah.
So we've learned early on in the movie, when she goes to the real world, she's catcalled by a bunch of the construction guys, and she says, "I don't have a vagina." Right? She, again.
Yeah, and then she's like, and he doesn't have a penis. She says this to the construction workers. She thought they're all going to be women, and they hit on her. They cackled her. And then she's like, I don't even have a vagina, and he doesn't even have a penis. And you know what the construction workers say? She says, okay, that's cool. They don't even care, because like they probably think that they're trans, and they're okay with it, because they're not transphobic, Ben. But they don't make a big deal out of it. They don't have like a whole commentary about trans people. They're just like, wait, I don't have a vagina and he doesn't have a penis. And they're just like, okay, that's cool. And that's it. That just portrays everyday modern American workers as not transphobic. Is that wrong, Ben? Is that wrong?
Amazing line for your 7-year-old girl. She'll love it.
Good. Don't bring your 7-year-old to a fucking a PG-13 movie, asshole.
So apparently, when she is turned into a real woman, she has now grown a vagina. So the first thing that she does is she goes to the gynecologist. Because ladies, the apotheosis of your being is not motherhood. We got rid of that at the very beginning. And it's not being a wife or a partner, because women are supposed to be apart from men.
Well, no, that's not what they say at all.
It is your vagina.
What are you have to, bro, there's no way. It was a funny joke. The buildup was that like it ends with her in the car with America Ferrara and her daughter and like I think someone else, and they're like, okay, you ready for this big step in your life? And she's like, yeah, I'm ready. And she gets out, and you think that she's gonna become like go fucking apply for a job or something huge. She just goes to the gynecology appointment. It was like a funny little joke. It was just a small subversion of her expectations, and it ends there.
It is that you go to the gynecologist. Ladies, this is what makes you the most human you can be, is that you go to the gynecologist.
Okay.
Now, I could point out here that that's really transphobic. That according to
that's not, it's not, because you don't even understand what the movie's about.
Same people who made this movie, not all women have vaginas.
Yeah.
And not all people with penises are men. I could point that out right here.
Sure.
Because it obviously conflicts with the very ending of the film.
All you're telling us right now is that the movie is trans affirming because they have a trans woman in it, but then also makes you understand that most women have vaginas and they don't feel the need to always make a concession, say, but some women have penises. Because I think that that's annoying. I don't think that we all, like, if I should be able to say that women have vaginas and women give birth without people fucking crying about it. Like, trans men can give birth too, but I shouldn't have to constantly remind everybody of that. It's like annoying that it's like, yeah, women give birth. Oh, so it's trans men too. It's like, okay, relax. We don't have to always fucking jerk off the social narrative. If anything, the movie, by your logic, the movie's just doing that. It's like, yeah, look, a woman has vaginas. And they're like, but we understand trans women have penises. We're okay with that. We have a trans woman literally in the movie. But, like, we don't feel the need to shove it in your face as far as, like, the narrative. Like, it's okay for us to speak to the general population.
But instead, I'm going to go with this one. At the end of all of this, they've boiled down. They have a whole conversation about identity and death and meaning. Right? This whole conversation. What does it boil down to at the very end?
A joke?
What it boils down to at the very end,
it's
apparently,
a comedy.
is being biologically female is the only thing that matters. And
no, that's not what's communicated.
It kind of.
Nope.
That's it. Like, it all just boils down to a lady at the gynecologist. That's female power. Female power is Barbie goes to gynecologist. Which, I don't know about
Ben doesn't understand jokes.
you ladies, but that seems like that's not like the most feminist message. That lady parts are the entirety of the lady. So excellent job. And with that, we end the film, and then we have the glossy, credits with a Nicki Minaj song, Nicki Minaj version of "I'm a Barbie Girl in a Barbie World." This movie started off as Barbie, and it was Weird Barbie. It was the toy that was handed off to Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig, and they played with it too hard. They decided that they were going to turn it inside out. They're going to rip off the hair. They were going to shave it. They were going to make it ugly. They were going to put all sorts of makeup on it, and then they were going to throw it out in the public. Now, those of us who are on the right, we look at the politics of this movie, we're like, man, so it sounds like a double sandwich. It doesn't sound like
no, I think that you guys, some people on the right are so obsessed with being anti-woke that you couldn't sit down and watch a fucking movie with your daughter that was just fun for her to watch, that will make her feel good about herself.
A Big Mac, it sounds like a double Big Mac, right? It sounds like the plot is crap, and the characters are crap, and the humor is crap, and then on top of that, the politics are crap. But you're missing the point. There's a reason this film
It just doesn't resonate with you.
It's 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. And the reason is,
people
if you are
liked
on
it.
the left,
It was
you can
fun.
make one of the world's most boring, crappy comedies. You can waste an extraordinary amount of money and talent.
This is a really good movie.
You can waste some of the great IP ever created. But as long as you slather it in a bunch of warmed over glorious Steinem nonsense, the critics will just salivate over you.
Okay.
They'll pretend that this is an actual good movie.
It was.
So here's my prediction in terms of market.
Okay.
The marketing campaign for this movie has been astonishingly good, right? If you walked into this movie and you knew nothing of what I just said, what would you think this movie is? You would think that this movie was probably something like the Disney movie Enchanted, but with Barbie. It's going to be Barbie in Barbie Land, and then it's going to be Barbie in the real world, and it's going to be charming, and it's going to be funny, and it's going to be warm-hearted.
Was all those things.
It's not going to be vicious and cynical.
It wasn't those things.
And it's not going to be what morons talk about at Hollywood cocktail parties.
Okay.
It's just going to be fun. It's going to be a place where a mom might be able to take her 7-year-old or 8-year-old girl and enjoy themselves together, and then walk out with their arms around each other. You might think that's what it was going to be.
It was.
And undoubtedly, millions of moms and their daughters will think that. That's what you're seeing at the theaters. That's why you're seeing everybody wearing pink to the theaters. It's become like a Star Wars kind of thing, right? It's an actual cosplay of it.
Okay.
The number of moms who are going to take their daughters back to the theater week 2, good luck with that. Really, good luck with that.
Okay.
Hollywood decided to empty out its own IP here. They decided they were going to take a golden piece of IP and they were just going to smash it and turn it into Weird Barbie. And I got to tell you, and this is going to have some ramifications for Barbie the brand. I don't know why Barbie the brand would hand this property over to people.
I doubt that. It'll probably have positive ramifications. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be a ramification, a positive impact.
People who clearly hate the property. In the real world, the patriarchy rules. Men are really bad. Women need to separate off from men and hate men in order to be unblinded to the patriarchy, and then they can overthrow the patriarchy and create paradise. That is the thesis of the film.
Okay.
Last comment.
That's not the thesis of the film. So, again, the overall film was just about how like our patriarchy can be very oppressive to women, and also how Barbie's matriarchy was oppressive to the men there, to the point where the men basically riot and revolt once they realize that they could be more human, and then they take things too far. And then the idea is supposed to be ultimately that maybe the society goes back to, or goes to, men and women are equal area. But then they make a fun little commentary about how now that the men are no longer oppressed in their society actively by not being able to contribute at all, they'll give them some little positions of powers and make them feel included in the way that women were made to feel when they were able to vote back in our society. That's pretty much it. It's not about separation of men and women, but...
Whenever I do film reviews like this, lengthy film reviews of movies like this, the left is always like, why are you taking this
You should watch the movie, I think, Ben.
so seriously? How dare you take this so seriously? Well, because this is a movie where hundreds of millions of dollars will be expended to get people to watch it.
Okay.
It has a heavily political message. It is explicitly designed to divide men from women.
No, it's not.
It has these negative messages directed at kids. It is supposed to be a kids movie. It's rated PG-13. It is not marketed to PG-13.
What? It's rated PG-13. It doesn't matter. Check this out. Interesting thing about 7-year-olds. They don't have money or a car. They can't get to see a movie without mommy or daddy. So it doesn't really matter what you're saying. But okay.
It is marketed to PG. It is marketed to moms who are going to skip the PG-13 rating and bring their daughters there anyway.
Yeah, who cares? It's really not that big of a deal if you bring your kid under 30. It's not that bad. They probably won't even get some of the jokes. The movie's fine. I'm just saying, Like they can't get there without their parents, and if their parents do, you can consider that the parents' irresponsibility. So who cares?
Culturally relevant moment, a very culturally relevant moment.
Yeah, I hope that Mattel sells Ken's Dojo House as playset. I agree.
And so the entire left's attempts to play the face tattoo syndrome. Watch as we take a piece of children's IP and wear its skin around.
Hurry up and finish the video, dude.
And we notice it, and then they're like, "Ah, you noticed it? You're obviously very upset." I find it upsetting when material is based on children's IP, marketed to little girls, actually ends up being angry feminist claptrap that alienates men from women, undermines basic human values, and promotes falsehood all at the same time.
Doesn't do that.
And I think a lot of people are going to have a right to be mad.
No,
so we'll see what
nobody's going to be that mad, Ben. It's just you.
Income trajectory of this film is. By the way, it's just going to die in China. The overseas market for this film.
Yeah, probably. Who cares? China's not progressive. China sucks. China's government's dog shit. China's government literally is like oppressive and not like okay.
Good luck with the Chinese.
I don't care about the way the Chinese people receive this movie. I'm not trying to be an asshole.
Communist government.
Chinese people are great. The government though is shit. So
putting their kids in this sort of stuff.
Okay,
it is not going to happen.
So why don't you go move to China, Ben? If you feel like you resonate so much more with them, I don't.
Final rating out of 10 Barbies. How many Barbies? 10 out of 10 being good.
I say like a 8 or a 9. I thought maybe it's like a high 7 to 8. Maybe yeah. I think like an 8. I'll be comfortable with like an 8. That's a decent for me, and I'm a guy, so it didn't really resonate with me as much as women.
The answer is negative all the Barbies.
Whoa,
negative all of them.
Negative 10.
I honestly, just as a piece of film, this sucker goes in like my bottom 10 ever.
Wow.
Ever.
It's almost like it wasn't made for you.
It is that bad. Not just because of the politics, because the plot makes no sense, because the writing makes no sense, because the acting half the time makes no sense.
What?
The entire film.
It was acted very well.
Is a dog's vomit.
Watching this movie, the one thing that this is how you know the actors suck is if you're watching a movie and you realize that it's a movie at a certain point, the actors are bad, right? Like there's times where I'll watch movies and I'll sit there like the show From is a good example because the overall idea is decent, but the writing wasn't great, to be honest with you. The overall writing was decent, but like the scene, I don't know, it wasn't very good to me. But anyway, if you're sitting there watching a movie or watching a show and you're going, wow, that actor must be so weirdly uncomfortable acting this out, then the show is not very good, right? Like, if you sit there and go like, wow, this person has to deliver this weird, like, rambling run-on sentence to these people in front of everybody, that's cringe. But I didn't feel that way in here. I did feel once when she was going on that tangent about how women were, like, oppressed and everything. But overall, it was a good movie, man. It's a solid 8, maybe a little higher.
It is a dog's breakfast of film. So, yeah, I'm gonna go with negative infinity Barbies.
Wow.
It is that bad. If 10 out of 10 Barbies is like the stereotypical Barbie, this is Barbie head atop the robot body made by the weird kid from Toy Story 1.
Gotcha. Apparently Ben loves Toy Story. It's the third time he's referenced it.
And also, by the way, Oppenheimer is good.
Okay, Ben, thanks. You probably liked Oppenheimer because it was a movie made for men.
I'm so happy all that's on film. Barbenheimer. See it in theaters.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I liked only Ben Shapiro could have complained about a movie for as long as the runtime of the actual movie itself. Oh, sure. All right. Yeah. A lot of people are just shitting on him. Nobody, not even an 8-year-old girl, took this movie as serious as Ben did. The amount of times Ben says, "Isn't this a kid's movie?" and the answer the whole time is no, Ben, it's not, and never will be. Yeah, okay. Anyway, it was fine. I liked it. It's a good movie. Ben's a crybaby. That's pretty much it.